We we live. Welcome to the Doug and Everett podcast. Black Business Roundtable. Hope everybody's having a good day. We will today talk about a lot of different topics and go into some very detail on some things that I think is going to provide a lot of knowledge and understanding about some of the things we face today. We're going to start with Dr. Ashley, as usual, to give us some of that mental therapy that we all need and that we all long for. And we appreciate having her on as always. And also, I have my good friend. I'm going to let Dr. Ashley start. But before, I want to introduce my friend Benjamin Buggs to the podcast. And you guys going to love him. I've been knowing him for 40-something years. He's a good friend of mine. Been through so much together, and he's done so much for this community that just mind-boggling. And I'll give us I'll lead time for that. Right now, I just want Dr. Ashley. You can go in and get us started. And
Okay. Hello, everyone. So happy to be here with you. Before we start, I think we do have some news of the day. So, on this day in history, let's see, June 10th, 1954, the Southern governors gather in Virginia to plan resistance to Brown versus Board decision, right? And also, so that's something just in our history. But just again, welcome all of you. Want to talk to you about managing your stress. So, on this Good Thursday, let's take a deep breath together. And take our stress temperature. Right. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? Right. You're a 4, Ben, Doug, and you're there. I see.
Dr. Ashley, some of the challenges, so I desperately need you today. Thank you. That's part of why I'm late. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. And on a scale of 1 to 10, Everett, where would you say you are? Okay, a 7. So I'm going to introduce an exercise. Please, I invite you all to participate with me. It'll take a couple of minutes, but it's called Leaves on a Stream. So we know that battles occur in our minds and we have to visualize victory before it happens. But often we're overpowered by thoughts that we don't know we're experiencing. So I want to invite you all to sit comfortably in your chairs. You can either close your eyes or rest them gently on a fixed spot in the room. Audience, please join in with us. Okay. And so, if we can take a deep breath together and exhale. And I want you to imagine that you are sitting by a beautiful body of water, whether that's Lake Merritt, right? Or one of our beautiful beaches in California. But I want you to visualize yourself being by water. And imagine as you're sitting by the water for the next few minutes, I'd like you to take every thought that enters your mind and place it on a leaf and let it float by. Okay. Any thought, whether it's painful, pleasurable, or neutral. Okay. We want to allow the stream to flow at its own pace. Don't try to speed up the thoughts or rush your thoughts along. Just allow them to come and go. And if a leaf gets stuck, or you have thoughts like, I'm bored, this is dumb, I'm not doing this right, place those thoughts on leaves too and let them pass.
You're not in there. You're not in that. You're not in this.
And I'm going to invite you to join me back with deep breaths as you return. So, this is what we call a cognitive diffusion exercise, because when we're having high emotions or our thoughts are racing, they're fused and we don't have an opportunity to kind of observe our thoughts and say, is this fact? Is this true? Where is this coming from? Or our emotions. So I just want to quickly debrief with you. What did you notice about thoughts, emotions? What was hard about it? What was easy about it? Just any reactions?
Can I go first, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Doc, we've had a great conversation this week in regards to some challenges that I've had. So
Mhm.
once again, that was a double Hennessy, and I'm ready for the show now. Thank
All
you
right.
so
You're
much.
welcome.
The idea of taking a time out to gather. And
Mhm.
of course, I start my day out like that every day with devotions and prayers
Mhm.
as I drink my coffee on my patio.
Mhm.
But just right here, right now, in the midday afternoon, to stop, take a time out, and think for a moment and meditate on thoughts. Initially, I kept thinking about that box truck I bought yesterday with a lift gate. That was where my mind was. So for some reason, that box truck, I mean, it just, it's the biggest box truck I ever bought, but it just kept intruding, and I told myself the truck's not that important. Why are you thinking about it? You know what I mean? Just let that truck go. That's where I was at that moment. And then, of course, my thought went to what time's the game start?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So, what's important, in life is the fact that you mentioned how to put anything on that leaf and let it float on by. And so those thoughts just floated away. I'm just happy to be here. And that's my priority in life, to focus where I'm at in the here and now. And I really appreciate that.
No, thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you.
Doctor.
Thank you. And Everett, what about you? What was that like for you?
It helped. I really needed it. We like Doug was saying, we just went through a lot of stress in a real short period of time, trying to get things together, running a little late and so forth. Had my mind kind of rattled, and you helped calm it down. You helped calm me down and calm it down and let everything go. Try to let that stress go and calm down and focus on what we're here to do. And so it was very helpful for me, extremely helpful.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much. Remember, when we lower our emotions, we can think solution focused. So you have teammates. There's no Christoph Porzingis over here. It's Luca. So you can pass,
Yeah,
come through with a
yeah,
clutch.
preach, girl.
Okay. come,
Man, you
come
been
through with a clutch.
over my desires, talking Luka, talking Dallas, talking about the not passing the ball. Man, look what we got, man. Look, uh,
So there you go. Okay. So
love it.
that is our stress management moment for today.
Thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome.
Much needed. Much needed. Much needed.
Welcome. Do we have a show for you today? For some of those who follow me on Facebook and LinkedIn, you might have noticed in the last 7 days I've had some challenges. That's part of the reason why I'm late today. And Dr. Ashley, once again, you are amazing. We are blessed to have you on this show. And thank you for taking time to talk to me the other day when I had something in my eye. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. So let's start it off. We have a cast for you today. We have men such as myself. And I'm going to give you a quick, brief story. One of the main reasons why I chose the theme that I chose today. When I was 13 years old, back in 1976, this is when they were putting black boys in jail with black men. And I had an experience of a lifetime. My life was changed by the action of a family member who had just graduated from law school. And I'm going to share that story real briefly so that will give you the curriculum of what's going to be explained today and how every child, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, or other, makes mistakes. But if they don't have that person, they don't have that network, or they don't have the connections, it could change a person from being the New Jack City dope dealer to a astronaut, to a mathematician, to a doctor, to a lawyer, to a successful businessman. So I'm going to start off with my story. When I was 13 years old, I had done something stupid. And I won't say I did something stupid. I was accused, allegedly, of doing something stupid. It was 3 o'clock in the day when my uh, got out of school. Well, I took off school that day anyway. The police came to my house, knocked on the door, handcuffed me at 13 years old, walked me down, threw me in the car like I was a 25-year-old man, took me to juvenile hall. And without going into the specifics of it, uh, my mom and dad had to pick me up that night, 6 hours later. And one of the most challenging, one of the most deterring, one of the most turning points in my life was me sitting in a juvenile hall cell 6 by 6. And I heard people going, ah, get me out of here. And I said then, if I ever get out of here, I'm never coming back. So my mom and dad came back. And let me give you the visual. My dad is 6'5", 270 pounds. And he's a truck driver. He was a Teamster truck driver. Now, you ever see the big tractor trailers and they have that middle piece that connect the first trailer to the second trailer? That's about a 700-pound, maybe 1,000-pound dolly. Most men would connect the truck and back the truck to the other trailer. My dad took the dolly, 1,000-pound dolly, and moved it to the truck and connected to the trailer. That's the strength of my father. So as we were driving home, he and my mom picked me up. I knew I was going to get the beating of a lifetime. All I could think of was roots. I'm gonna get 30 lashes at least. On that what appeared to be 8-hour drive home, it was only actually 15 minutes, but it appeared to be 8 hours. And I was saying to myself, oh man, what is he gonna use? Is he gonna grab the broomstick? And I'm gonna get the switch. I know the belt. This is beyond belt. So halfway home, he turned around and looked at me and he said, and he pulled over and he looked at me and said, well, when he turned around, I flinched because I thought he was going to throw a right or left. I said, oh, am I going to get the right or left? He said, if you ever get in trouble again, your name is just Doug. You are no longer my son. You're no longer a black shear. That hurt more than the whooping. That hurt me more than the whooping. Long and short, we got home. My mom and dad called around because they said, hey, look, if this boy, and that's what they called me after that because I made a boyish move. If this boy gets caught up in the judicial system in 1970, he'll never be anything. He'll always wear that jacket. So they went around talking to different attorneys. I'm not going to get into the specifics of the case, but the cheapest one wanted $15,000, and I had to plead guilty, and they would do a plea deal. Now, this is where the story changes considerably. Robert L. Harris, Dr. Ashley knows him. He just graduated from Bolt Hall in Berkeley. He came over and talked to my parents and said he had just graduated with his law degree and passed his bar. He was a lawyer. He said, if this boy gets caught up in the judicial system, he'll never be able to get a decent job. So we went to court, and the judge looked at me and he said, Art Douglas Blacksheep, talked to my attorney, which was my uncle. He said, Mr. Blacksheep, do you understand? Did your attorney explain to you the seriousness of these charges? And my attorney said yes. And he looked at me and said yes. And he says, you have two options here. So you should listen carefully. If you plead guilty, we'll give you probation. But if you don't plead guilty, you will, and you're found guilty, you will spend from the time, and I was 13, so the trial lasted about 9 months, from the end of the trial until you're 25 years old, 11 years before you are able to get out of the prison pipeline. So anyway, we went through the adjudication, and I hope you're listening, Uncle Robert, because after watching you, I truly believe there were Perry Masons in this world. I truly believe that there were lawyers that were so sharp, so skillful, that they can find the truth no matter where it is. They had eyewitnesses, they had fingerprints, they just knew they had another brother undercover for 25 years. And that's what I would have been. Long and short, he adjudicated the case. I was found innocent. To this day, I remember the words my Uncle Robert said to me, Robert L. Harris, Esquire. He said, Douglas, come here. He said, if you ever get in trouble again, don't call me. That was 45 years ago. I tell you that story because that's going to bring us into today. Today, we're talking about how Black boys and girls get caught up in the judicial system. Now, we all, when we're young, we make bad mistakes, but I saw something recently where a group of one young boy, about 13 or 14, it was I think it was three African Black young girls, and the Oakland BART police had them handcuffed on the curb. And a brother came up about my age and asked the police officer, what's going on? And they said, step back, sir, stand back. And I'm going to share that if you are able to go on my Facebook, and I'm also going to see if we can share that at the end of the story, because of me running late, I didn't have a chance to put it together. But what the Black adult male talked those officers into doing was something that was humane, something that would teach the kids a positive lesson, something that would change, that could change those kids' lives, like my life would change, by Bob Robert L. Harris. The young man spoke to the police officers and said it was two Asian cops and there was one Black cop. And he said, man, these are kids. These are children. Why do you have them handcuffed? The young Black boy said it has something to do with some white kids. And the elderly Black male said, well, what happened? Where are the other kids at? And the little Black boy said, they're on the BART train heading home. And he says, well, why? Was there any guns involved? Was anybody hurt? No. It was police exercising that mental mentality to our Black kid. Now, I don't liken this to extreme racism, but I do liken this to extreme lack of judgment on the police officer's part. You have kids who have, for what it wasn't, per the police officer's own statement, they were not indulging in any kind of physical altercation or weapons or anything, but they were just black boys and girls who probably made a stupid mistake. But the police officers let the white kids go home, but they chained up. And yes, they chained up those black kids. Now, those of you, and I'm going to back off of there, because once again, if you all get a chance to look at my Facebook, it's Art Blackshear, or you can go on LinkedIn and find Art Blackshear, and you can see my story recently. That brings us into, Doctor, can you briefly describe the trauma that those 13 and 14-year-olds are going to have for the rest of their lives, because police, law enforcement chose to use maximum force, handcuff, sit them on the ground, like teaching them, this is, be ready to assume this position, versus not doing that to the white kids. So can you help our audience understand the visual, the feeling of selflessness that those kids felt up until that black man said, man, what's going on here? Please, because when I saw that, I thought of me sitting in the back of a police car in front of my mother's house at 13 years old at 3 o'clock, neighbors driving up and down, and me with my hands cuffed behind my back at 13. Doc, can you give us how the kids feel or felt, and how we as parents, we as role models, we as guardians can tell those kids, and also explain to law enforcement how you are affecting these black boys and girls for a lifetime of psychological issues based on that one stupid, and I'm gonna say stupid, because you didn't have to, if you're gonna chain up some kids, chain them all up. Don't just chain up the black ones. Thank you, Doc.
Well, thank you, Doug, for your story, and for sharing what happened to those to the youth, because I didn't get a chance to see it. But first, the shame, right? The powerlessness of being restrained. Hopefully, they were prepared with a conversation first. And we know that in our communities, what Black parents have to tell their children and start having conversations about law enforcement, we know those conversations are different. We know that what's been happening in the news with the police killings, of course, those conversations are happening frequently, but it's still, we talk about the nervous system. And so anytime we're met with authority when we're adolescents, right? There's an idea that, again, the heart can start racing. There are a lot of high stressful moments. And so being able to calm oneself, talk oneself, this is what, okay, what did my mother tell me? What did my father tell me? What do I need to do? What am I hearing right now? Because we know any type of movement, unfortunately, even if it's compliance, we can't control what another person is going to do. So it's a very high stress situation. Anytime we experience something on the spectrum of unpleasant all the way to traumatic, it's really important to have that debriefing. And so, more importantly, we know that often the messaging that Black children and adults receive is just survive the moment. So we do whatever we can do, and we understand that just by complying doesn't mean that you're going to survive the moment. So I want to be very clear, because I don't want to get on the respectability politics of, if you do this, this is going to happen. We cannot control the decision making of another person. However, most of the messaging is about surviving the moment, but what's restorative and what can reduce the trauma, the likelihood of the onset of trauma, is the debriefing, the affirming from the parents. What do you tell your child? How do you nurture your child? Allowing your child to ask ask questions and have a conversation, and what to do in the future, and modeling that, I think, is what's really most important. But it's unfortunate that these conversations have to continue. with we know with media and the likes and children having all access, they see these killings. So again, if you're not having these conversations, no matter your racial ethnic background, it's important for you to have these conversations. And again, I think there's a lot of work that can be done. I do want to acknowledge some of the mental health professionals in the Bay Area. I know also in Southern California that are really working to align with the police to actually accompany them on any type of perceived mental health or do some conflict resolution. I know San Francisco has been spearheading that effort. But there's a lot there. But anytime you're restrained against your will by a stranger and you know that they have power over you and you're seeing weaponry right there, and you know that someone can draw a weapon at any time. I mean, when children or adolescents are experiencing trauma, they can have any type of bodily sensation, as I mentioned, internally, or even wetting oneself, soiling oneself, vomiting. There are a lot of trauma reactions that can happen. Doug?
I'd like to say this too, and I'm hoping once again it's Art Blackshear on Facebook. Please please look at this video. The way the police had them sitting, it reminded me of something back in a 1900 or 1900 movie where they had the inmates sitting on the ground in a circle. They had a cop on the right, they had a cop on the left, and they had a cop in front of them. It was shameful. And let me just be clear. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, police. Shame of it. There are all these criminals out here killing, shooting people in Oakland, but you want to mess with some old kids behind some probably with some trivial things. So yes, it was shameful. I hope people look at the video and learn from it. And I hope these officers, thank you. Yeah, you pulled it up. I hope you officers or go with some kind of training, because what you've done to those children will stick with them for a lifetime. And I hope their parents, I hope the city of Oakland, I hope BART Police will give them the type of psychological reinforcement that let them know that they should have not been treated that way. And if you're going to treat kids like that way, you treat all of them that way, not just the black one. And that was my biggest problem with that. So, Dr. Ashley, thank you for allowing me to do the Angry Black Man. But I remember when I was 13, for a long time after that, when I saw police, first thing I did is go, what did I do? Because the way they handcuffed me, it pinched my wrist. The way they grabbed my shoulder and hurled me into the car, they treated me like I had just robbed a white bank. It was shame, and I remember that to this day. So when I saw that picture yesterday or last week, and I saw the way they treated those kids, it brought me back to that. But the only thing different with me, my parents said, "You're better than that." I had the resources to navigate me out of that. But just think if I didn't have a Uncle Robert L. Harris, and Dr. Ashley knows Uncle Robert. He's a magnificent lawyer, was the vice president of the PG&E, and I could go on and on and on. But Uncle Robert, to this day, I owe you my life. My life would be totally different if you hadn't just graduated from college with your law degree and passed your bar and saved my life. And the rest is history. Thank you. Dr. Ashley, do you have anything else to share with a parent? Just a few words of how that parent, a guardian, or even a school counselor could talk to those kids who've been affected psychologically. And that's what it is. It's a psychological thing. And the black cop, I'm just going to tell you, the black cop should be ashamed of himself. It was a black cop and it was 2 Asian cops. And yes, brother, I hope you're listening. You should be shame of yourself. You said you had kids too. How would you feel if they had your kids on the ground sitting like they were in prison in a prison camp? Shame on you.
Let me add one more quick thing to what you're saying, Doug, and what you guys are talking about. It's got me thinking, reminiscing, and the reality of police and community. I grew up, as you know, in Sobrante Park, a very impoverished area area, war zone type area. And I remember experienced one time I was in my mother's car, drove over to my brother's house. And I was about 16, just had got my permit and my license, opened the car door up, and I was on 82nd and Holly, opened the car door up, and a police car came speeding around the corner without his siren on and hit the car door. And he hit the car door, so he was in the wrong because he was speeding. Came around the corner. He was making a right turn. I was parked on the street, opening up my car door, and he hit the car door, the LTD, pulled over. I get out the car, and I was, talking to the officer, showing him my permit and all of that, my license, and I'm parked now. Because I told him he was in the wrong. I said, "You were in the wrong, officer. You didn't have your lights on. You were speeding, and you hit my car door." And he took me, after a few words, handcuffed me, put me in the police car, and some neighbors called my mother, which was probably about in Sobriety Park, was probably like two miles away from this incident. She came to the scene. Now I'm in the police car. The officer got me handcuffed. He didn't hit my car. He's at fault. I'm in the back of the police car. My mother gets there. They telling her what happened. She goes and talks to the officers, telling him, that's my son. And you came around the corner. They say you didn't have your lights on. You hit his car. You hit the car and such. Whatever happened between them, he ended up putting her arm behind her back, slamming her into the police car, handcuffing her, taking me out the police car, putting my mother in the police car. And they went on to take her downtown and arrested her. Before they could arrest her, they couldn't arrest her because they had dislocated her shoulder. So they took her to Highland Hospital. Once she got through the hospital stuff and all, once she got finished getting seen at the hospital, her shoulder dislocated, they decided to drop the charges and let her go. But that's just an example of my first real experience with the Oakland Police Department as a kid, like you're saying, and just how dirty and how, how just unsavory they are and how they deal with the community. They deal with the community in a tremendously bad way, taking money from us, beating us up, falsely accusing us of things. And that's the way the neighborhood was, just running roughshod. And that's the way that they were in our neighborhood. That's my experience with the police. I have friends that I went to college with that they see the police, they feel safe. They feel comfort. They feel security like you're supposed to feel for somebody that's there to protect and serve you. Me, total opposite feeling. Every time I see the police, I feel fearful. I feel anxiety. I feel on edge. I feel like they're not there for me. They're there to get me. It's it's been that way my whole life. It's from that point to now, for 50 years, it's been that way, the way I feel about police. Every time I see them, every time I see a police car, it's just I'm in trauma daily because of experiences, because of things I've seen with my own eyes, and way more extreme than what I'm even talking about that I've seen police do and the things they've done. Anyway.
Hey, and Larry Lewis, good to see you, my brother, and Ben Bug. Can I get like a quick and I know we're running behind, and I apologize because once again, I ask you again, go to my LinkedIn account, Art Blackshear, or you can go to my Facebook page and you can read why my last 6 days have been extremely challenging. But Larry, just like you have a story, Everett has a story, I have a story. In a few minutes, can each one of you guys elaborate on your experience with law enforcement? And Larry, we grew up in the same neighborhood. Ben, can you go first? And then Larry, then we're going to break right into...
with all due respects, I don't think this show is long enough for me to go on about my experience with the
if you
police.
can sum it up in a nutshell.
We'd be here till tomorrow. It's just unreal.
That's real talk.
You see it, you see it, you see it, you lived it, you lived it, you lived it. I've had incidents where I was one that comes to mind right now is a mistaken identity, right? Looking for a black guy in the area who fit my description. Man, worst ass whooping of my life. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't even the guy. You know what I'm saying? And they're calling me Robert, Larry, Doug, Everett, name but my own name.
We all look
beat
alike.
My ass every time I denied that was my name. They beat me and put the fear of God in me. And to this day, I'm thankful they didn't kill me, because they could have very well have killed me and put a gun on me or whatever else. They had me get down on my knees, put my hands on my head, on my knees. Then they cuffed me, and hands me on my back on my knees, and that's when the butt whooping started.
Wait a minute. What state was this? I'm sorry. Let them know where you're from.
Up there, the sheriffs. You know what I mean? The Sacramento sheriffs. You know, they beat me so bad. You know, I wasn't even the guy they were looking for. You know, what was a trip after they? I'm pleading for my life. Officer, why are you kicking me? Officer, why are you hitting me? I'm not resisting. I'm handcuffed. Officer, why do you have your boot on my head, grinding my ear into the pavement? You know, officer, please, why are you kicking me, booting me? You know, hit me with the stick. You know, I'm not resisting. I'm handcuffed. You know, and they're continually pounding on me. I look up. There's 3 white guys, of course. I look up. There's an Asian cop standing there. I looked at him. I said, "You're just as guilty as them for not stopping them."
Absolutely.
You know, for real. You know, I wasn't even the guy. And just to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and experience that. And they dragged me out to the car. My ears mincemeat, you know what I mean, and bleeding everywhere. And they give me the car. Some white girl sitting in the sheriff's car, and she goes, "No, that's not the guy. I've never seen him before." You know what I mean? Oh, we're gonna take you to the hospital and get you some stitches. You know what I mean? And leave you at the hospital. Give you a ride back. You know what I mean? Just drop you off in front of the hospital. You know what I mean? I wasn't even the guy. I don't know who the guy was, what he did, what the whole case was about. But I do know they kept saying, "You're going to leave the white women alone. You're going to leave the white women alone." You know what I mean? It just beat the shit out of me, man. You know, that's just one.
One of many.
I ain't going to go into some of the other ones, but that's one example of something I experienced personally in my life. And, you know, you think people are going to forget that kind of stuff and just leave that kind of stuff off. You know, I mean, this happened back in the 80s. It's like it's yesterday. You know, you remember that stuff. So when Everett said, you see the cops or the sheriffs and you have that moment, that feeling, hell yeah. You
Absolutely.
feel that stuff. You know,
Absolutely.
you know, because you know what they can do. You know how much that badge and that gun has power, given their circumstances. They can straight kill you and
Absolutely.
get away with it.
And get away
I
with
live in Vallejo, California. And, you know, I think we have one of the highest police homicide rates in the nation at this current time. You know, there's been incidents in Vallejo where, you know, brother fell asleep in the drive-thru at Taco Bell. That resulted in 26 bullets. You know what I mean? For real. You know what I mean? Though most cops, when they pull up, get on the bullhorn, you know, they got the car pinned in, get on the bullhorn and wake them up or say something. You know what I mean? Show your hands, you know what I mean, over the loudspeakers while they got guns everywhere. But in this case, they said he made a sudden move, and it resulted in him getting shot at 58 times and hit 26 times. And, you know, they said he had a gun in his lap. Yeah, right. Yeah, believe that one. You know, somebody 26 times sleep in their car in a Taco Bell drive-thru. You know what I mean? So I'm not even going to begin to think about all the stuff that they can do and have done, you know. And I don't want to sound like a radical, but I grew up in Muncie, Indiana, and we'd be out in the park playing ball, and, you know, it's called the Soul Bowl, you know, and we had a Dodge City Shootout, the Soul Bowl basketball tournaments in Heakin Park, and you got 4,000 or 5,000 blacks out there. You know what I mean? And a couple white cops ain't stupid enough to come out there and try to arrest a black man in front of everybody. And everybody got guns anyway. Yeah. Where we from, we hunters and fishers. You know what I mean? I got my first rifle when I was 7 years old. And my daddy had 32 guns. So next thing I know, I'm seeing guns everywhere around the cops. Ain't no backup coming. Ain't nobody else that stupid to come out there at that point in time with 4,000 blacks at the park. You know what I mean? So now the cops are disarmed, the cars turned over and burned. You know what I mean? And they're sent walking, and leave your radios here too. And I witnessed that, like you were saying earlier, Doug, when I was about 12 years old. You know, I saw that reality. You know what I mean? There has to be a point in time where people just, you know, you got to stop, man up or whatever. But this stuff, this has been going on for hundreds of years. So it ain't going to stop immediately. It's still going on today.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ben.
We
But,
keep
hey,
going and going and going.
thank you,
But
Ben.
like I said, we ain't got 2 days on the show.
Thank you. Let's let Larry take a few minutes because we run a little behind. But Larry, take a few minutes and tell us your story of dealing with law enforcement, because it's if I don't know if the 5 of us on here know there's a pattern here, but there appears to be a pattern here. And I'm going to let the doctor sum it up once Larry finishes. It's a mind thing. They want to teach you earlier. Back in the 1800s, in the 1700s, it used to be Ku Klux Klans with dogs and horses. Now it's cops and badges with the same type of tactic. Once you instill in the mind of a child that if you black, you can be put in the back seat of a police car and taken away to jail, and your whole life is destroyed, whether you did it or you didn't do it, or you look alike. If you don't have the network and the connection, you who could have been the president of the United States, an accountant, a doctor, a lawyer, your life is gone. Larry, please take a few minutes and tell us your story dealing with law enforcement. Mike. Hit your mic. Turn your mic on, Larry.
I got it. Okay. Hey, everybody. It sounds like we all do exactly have the same type of stories. I could talk to you a little bit about what Everett has already shared with you, but he's already shared it. We rode together like Batman and Robin back in the day. I thought I was a law-abiding citizen with my story, because the ones that I want to share with you, I was in the military. All right. And the first one, it happened. I had several of them that happened at different times. But the first one, I was probably about 24, 25 years old. And I remember I had my younger brother with me, and I was taking him home. And I pulled up in front of a store because I wanted a pack of cigarettes. Back then, I was doing that kind of thing. So I decided I was going to go in the store, Kmart, and get or Circle K, and I was going to get a pack of cigarettes. My younger brother told me if I go across the street to the gas station, I could get them cheaper. So I got out the car and I ran across the street to keep from getting hit. Well, the police happened to be watching me, profiling me. All right. And so when I ran across the street, they followed me across the street, rolled up on me hard with the car, cut me off, jumped out the car, threw me on the threw my hands and my chest on the front of the car. All right. And they started frisking me. Okay, so like I said, being that I thought that I was a law-abiding citizen, I'm wondering, okay, well, first of all, what the heck y'all doing? What's going on? Second of all, y'all embarrassing me to death. All right, I got all kind of people out here looking at this and all of what's happening, right? And so I'm starting to get a little hot under the collar. All right, and so they start talking to me about, who am I? What am I doing? All right, and I'm like, why are y'all stopping me? Why am I on y'all hood? And they said, well, we seen you ditch that car. They thought I had stole the car and was ditching it. All right, it was my car. So they needed some identification. I began to share identification with them. Started pulling out my registration and my ID card, my military ID card, and my driver's license. And I was upset, so I was throwing the cards on top of the car on hood. I was throwing them on here. You want to see it? This. I'm a sergeant in the Marine Corps. Here. You want to see this? Here go my credit card. Here go Larry. This is me. And then they're like, okay, sergeant. Calm down. You supposed to be able to. We supposed to be able to work together because we are both familiar with the military or the structure of. And I'm like, no, hell no. I'm like, I'm going off on them. All right. And I'm like, I need your badge number, everything. But they just pulled me over and jacked me because of nothing, actually. That was my first experience. My second one, probably about 10 years later, when I was maybe not 10, maybe about 5 years later, when I was going to see my wife, who was my not even my fiance, more or less a girlfriend at the time. And she lived in Linwood, next door to, and this is LA. This is LA sheriffs. All right. Linwood next, and you know how LA. I know Dr. Ashley. I heard you rolled in the LA area a little while. But anyways, right outside of Compton. All right. And so I'm pulling up, trying to get to her house, and they see me. And at this time, I'm driving. I think I got a black Blazer truck, and I got my hat on. I got my baseball cap on, and I got my big jacket on. All right, so they was profiling once again. All right, and I was a young dude, so I'm not realizing that I'm setting myself up. All right, so anyway, they pulled me over, uh, and I'm trying to be sociable and let them know, okay, this is who I am. This is who I am. Well, they commenced to cussing at me, first of all. Get the F out the car. All right. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get out the car. I'm getting out the car. And then it more or less like, they ready to bust me in the head. All right. And so I start trying to explain. All right. And as I start trying to explain anything, and I had nothing in the car, didn't have nothing, ain't did nothing wrong. And I'm trying to explain, I'm just down here, see my girlfriend, and then, and that's it, and I got oceanside plates. And the reason why they pulled me over was because I had oceanside plates. All right. They had, around the plate of your car. Yeah, it said oceanside. As I started to try to explain, he said, I don't give a F. He said, you better shut up before I punch you in your effing mouth. All right. That's what he said to me. Still ain't did nothing. All right. So then they commenced to illegally seize my car, search my car. All right. They stopped me for nothing. They searching my car. All right. Looking for whatever they could find. They didn't have no right to be searching my car, and I knew that. All right. And they went through the car. They didn't find nothing. And then you would think that they would probably say, okay, well, my bad. You know what? My bad. But nah, he was like, get in the car and get the F out of here, little bitch. All right. And I'm like, wow. Again, I thought I was a law-abiding citizen.
But they have all the power.
Well,
Yeah, I was fortunate. To leave in 1980 and go into the military, because that's when it kicked off. That's when it started popping. We was doing our little dirt prior to that. But when I left, I missed a lot of stuff. And even when I came back home, moms and them was telling me, it's good to see you, baby. Now get back in your car, your pretty little baby boy, and you need to go back where you was at, because this ain't the place to be. So those are a couple stories. The last one that I was going to share was as a principal, where they rolled up on my second grader, and they surrounded second grader. All right, this little boy, and he act like he understood the mentality of the police. And I happen to be there because I'm rolling around the school area every chance I get. When I get out in the truck and I go out and I want to see what the kids doing, if they acting a fool, if whatever they doing, I'm out there, and I happen to catch the police pulled up on them, pulled up from one side and the other side, got him in the corner. All right. And it's like they sticking him up. And I'm like, hold up. And they knew who I was because I'm in a black area. All right. I'm on the other side of the tracks. And so they knew the black principal. They knew who he was. All right. And so they adhered to me enough for me to go stand in front of him and take him and put him back in the car, find out what was going on. There was nothing going on. Somebody throwing rocks at cars or something like that. But that was the third experience. It wasn't mine, but it was one that I saw with him. And I just, you realize that it's a shame that we all are dealing with the trauma that you mentioned earlier when it comes to the popo. It don't
Doc,
matter how much education you got. I'm sorry. It don't matter what you got. Your credentials don't matter.
it's almost like that Martin Luther King say when he was doing that interview. He said, "What do you call a BA, a MA, or a PhD?" Well, I tell you what the white man calls them. He calls them a nigga. So, excuse me for that. Right. But Doctor, can you wrap this up and give our audience, which appears to be growing quite a bit now, information that will help strengthen that talk that all Black people give their Black boys and girls, so that they can stay alive and achieve their goals and fight off that psychological chain that's put in your brain with some law enforcement person who went to a 12-week training program to come out there and do these harmful psychological things. Can you give us a wrap up on that? And then I'm going to break into the show. Thank you.
Sure. But first and foremost, I want to thank all of you for sharing your stories. I think we just had a very, very powerful segment when we talk about bearing witness in psychology and just bearing witness to other people's narratives. So I understand that as a psychologist, the discipline I could speak, but I think even more so, it's in hearing your narratives. And as brothers, I'm actually wondering if what it's been like, how you've passed that message on. These are the conversations that need to be passed down. And then with that, also, there needs to be instruction. And so I just can't comment enough on how rare this is to also have Black men be vulnerable and share and speak about it's okay to be afraid. If this was fearful in this situation, this is my reaction when I'm still triggered when I see police. This is what I go through. So actually, Doug, if you don't mind, I'm going to turn it on all of you and ask you, what's one thing, if there's a young brother listener, young sister listening, what would you tell them based on your experience?
Well, I guess I'll go first.
Mm-hmm.
If there's one thing I could tell every Black boy and girl out there, especially with this recent events of what I saw the BART police did, a total separation of the white kids, they're right, so they get to go home. But the Black kid, you better get back and get in that back seat and put these shackles on. When you're interacting with the police, the biggest thing that you have to keep in mind is they're trying to train your brain so that you come in all the time thinking that, did I do something wrong? Or am I going to, how is it going to affect me? Or you have to double think everything you do. But don't let them win. Do not let them win, because there's some good cops. There's some good police officers out there too. Do not. And I have some people in my family who are police officers. But those bad cops out there, do not let them put that 1800 mentality. Oh, we're gonna chase the slave down and bring him back to the master. Thank you.
So don't let them win. Okay. All right. And how about Everett? What's your nugget of wisdom?
Oh, wow, I was sitting there thinking when you asked it all while Doug was talking, like, what do I want to say? It's so much I want to say, and I can't. It's so much that I want to say, and how do I capitalize that thought process? I dealing with the police have all the power for one thing. They have all the authority, and that's a big problem. So even when you know you're in the right. You're doing the right thing. You know you've been falsely accused or falsely pulled over, or they falsely search your car. All of these things have happened to me. You ask the questions. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Oh, man, I don't know what. To be honest with you, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I don't know what you can do other than being aware of the law, quoting the law to them, keeping your cool, and hoping that you get a chance to display the law and prove them wrong in the court of law. That's it, because it's not going to happen when you're there at that moment. You got to understand that when you're at that moment, you're at their will and their control, and they can kill you. They can kill you. They can take you out. They can do anything to you at that moment. So because you're at that moment, you got to think, how do I get to the next phase where I could possibly have some protection? And speak law and try and win, but I can't win now. That's the key. In those moments, you can't. No matter what wrong they're doing, you can't win. So all you can try to do is be smart enough to play the game to get out of that particular situation, even, no matter how bad it's going, and just think, I'll have my time to prove myself. I'll have my moment to try to get justice, but I'm not going to be able to get it now. So don't just try to get myself out of this situation.
So play the game,
Play the
survive
game.
the moment, and you'll have the
Absolutely.
time. And I think what stands out too
Absolutely.
is you witnessing that violence
Every day.
perpetrated against your mother, and
Yes,
that
ma'am.
being, and so linking that to Ben, your story, and your assault. What would you pass down to our younger listeners and parents that are figuring out how do we have this conversation?
You know, when you get right down to it, like Everett was saying, at that particular point in time, you don't have any control. And the illusion is that you can talk your way out of something, and that's not going to work. Having been there and done that and experienced it, even myself having went to law school and a master's degree and a bachelor's degree, I think about what Doug said, what they call somebody with all those degrees.
Real talk.
Nigga. I'll probably use that line several times this week coming up. That's going to be my line of the week. So at that point in time, in their eyes, you're just a DWB driving while black. You know what I mean? They're going to get you. And you can't begin to try to, talk your way into innocence on the street. You know, what I do advocate and encourage people to do is not to fight back with them, not to argue with them, be polite, use those house manners you were taught. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. No, ma'am. And the tone of your voice will determine the response you'll get from them. If you're being belligerent or argumentative with them, that's not going to work. You're just going to irritate them and escalate it. You know, you got to be polite, bite your little pride ego down. And, sometimes people win the battle but lose the war. And sometimes you got to just, take that, moment and go through it and not aggravate or agitate them people. You know what I mean? If that means you're going to jail, well, hell, you can get bailed out. It's better than going to the grave. You know
Absolutely.
What I mean? So you got to just go through that process.
Absolutely.
And hopefully you get bailed out, or they let you go on an OR. Because the key is to survive.
Survive.
Moment,
survive
that experience, because you're right there in a moment where they got all the power and you don't have any. You might think you do. You think you got some power, but I'm 6'5", you know what I mean, and played college and professional sports, and boy, they have beat my butt, and I think somebody mentioned about how the handcuffs hurt. Yeah, how you talk to them determines how tight they put them handcuffs on you in that moment. If your words are reflecting any kind of rebellion, the tighter them handcuffs are going to be.
Absolutely.
They will cut your circulation off on your wrist with them handcuffs off the top, and that's just how they are. So if you got enough sense to not aggravate them on the moment, that's the best advice I could give any young person or anybody else. Doesn't matter what color you are at a certain point. I feel like sometimes, they have this term called white privilege. And my wife deals with that a lot in her efforts as an advocate for Native American Indians. But that white privilege, you see them where the whites, like Doug's post, I've seen them not even cuff the whites in the same car and take the black out and beat him down, in the same car. The white guy just standing there, take him out the car, he's standing there. They snatch the black guy out the car and beat the shit out of him. You know what I mean? And it's just how they are. And that just happened a couple months ago. You know what I mean? I'm watching it.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Knee off the man's neck. I had to get involved and tell the sheriffs, hey, get your knee off his neck. We're not doing this George Floyd stuff here today. And that's how they are. So if you put yourself in that situation when that happens, you just got to survive.
You got to survive to the next moment.
Be in jail to be in hell.
Yep. Just to, not to interrupt, but I want to say one story just for you. Just one. I ain't gonna get into the details. I'll just go through it real quickly. But a situation I had in 1986. This was my 4th year in college. I'm going to school. I'm visiting back to Sobrante during the Easter vacation. I just bought a brand new car. It was a 1986 BMW 325 ES cherry red. Shouldn't have probably had it, but I bought it. Treating myself. 4 days in the car. No license plates on the car.
Right.
Driving, yeah, you know how, but anyway, I was involved in some entrepreneurship type of stuff that maybe I shouldn't have been involved in. But anyway, we won't go there. But long story short of it, I'm in my car, and I was with friends. We're going out to eat dinner. I'm home for the Easter break. A couple of my partners get in the car. We finna go eat. They pop my trunk in my car in the driveway, and they put something in my trunk. I don't know, and they never told me that they put something in the trunk of my car, which is the truth. We go out and eat dinner. Later on, my girlfriend called me, want me to come pick her up. I go pick her up at midnight. Leave my friends at the restaurant. They want to stay there. We're at Carlos Murphy's in Berkeley, a spot that everybody used to hang out at. So I leave and go pick her up. She wants something from my mother's house. After I pick her up, take her to my mother's house, drive to my neighborhood. I'm in this red BMW now. Drive to my neighborhood. I see a police car, got somebody pulled over on the side of the street. He leaves. I drive by doing 20 miles an hour neighborhood. I see the guy. I'm trying to look to see if it's somebody I know who they got pulled over. I'm just looking. We riding by. It's 3 of us in the car. We roll by him. They leave this car alone. Just leave him alone. Get in a car, come after me, put their sirens on, pull me over. I'm thinking to myself, they mess with me because I'm in this red BMW. I'm a student. I'm home from school. I'm not worried about anything. I haven't done anything wrong. So the officer walks to my car. I have my wallet in my hand already. Finished showing my license. And I had about $1,500 in my wallet at the time. And he just grabs me, puts me out the car, didn't even look at my license or nothing, picked me up out the car, took me back to the police car, and put me in the police car. The other officer was 2 officers. The other officer go around, take out my girlfriend and her friend out the passenger seat. They talking to them on the side of the car. The other officer starts searching through the car, just searching the car. Just got me in the police car, searching the car, got the ladies out, got their purses on top of the car, going through their purses, asking them whatever they were asking them. And I'm in the police car, and I'm like, I cannot believe this shit. I'm sitting there thinking about they just, not speeding, not doing anything wrong. They see me in this car, they pull me out, put me back in the back seat. I'm just sitting there mad as I don't know what. They searching through my car. They open my trunk, pull this bag out of my trunk, and I saw that bag. And I knew what the bag was, my buddy's bag. I said, oh, I'm through. I said, my life is over with. I said, my life has just ended on this. I've never had no police record, never been in jail. I'm 22 years old. I'm in college at the University of Pacific on an academic scholarship, getting an engineering degree, 4 years into my 5-year program. They pull this bag out, and I'm sitting there going, my life has just ended. Put my head down, and the guy opened up the bag. He said, jackpot, jackpot, jackpot. And I get arrested, and I'm faced with possession, a sale of cocaine, 6 years, possession, a sale of marijuana, 6 years, conspiracy to transport, 8 years. I tell them I don't know where that bag came from. It's not mine. I'm a student. I go to the University of Pacific. I'm home, such and such. They put me in the car, take me to East Mall, put me in a paddy wagon, drive around town, filling up the paddy wagon for about 4 hours before they take me to the Oakland police station. Book me. And this is honest to God truth. It was an earthquake that night. This is March 31st, 1986. It was an earthquake in Oakland that night. And I had a suede jacket on, and I was sleeping on the floor of the jail cell, put my jacket down on my head, and there was an earthquake, and I was shaking so much that I didn't even feel the earthquake that night. And I never forget that. Didn't even know it was an earthquake till the next day when I was in jail. Long story short, I get bailed out the next day, paid $25,000, get out of jail, had to get an attorney. Long story short of it, the $1,500 I told you I had in my wallet, the officer stole that money. They said I had like $61 on. Some money that was in the trunk, they took that too, but that's not neither here nor there. But the money I had in my wallet, I said, I know I had $1,500 in my wallet. I told them on the police report. My mother gave me that to pay my tuition bill. So the Internal Affairs, a month after I got arrested, called me to come down to Oakland just to talk about the $1,500 in my wallet, not about the case, not about what was in that bag. And then I came down and took a lie detector test. Lie detector test probably April to 20-something. Took a lie detector test, Internal Affairs. They said the results were inconclusive. They couldn't tell whether I was lying or telling the truth, which I was telling 100% the truth. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, that happened. And so I'm still fighting my case. Come back to trial later on, and they pulled 400 cases in front of the get rid of Oakland cases. They had a whole bunch of drug cases in Oakland at that time. So mine was one of 400 cases. They offered me 6 months in the county jail if I plead guilty. If I pleaded guilty, I would get 6 months in the county jail, and I would have a record. And probably obviously my engineering career and everything I did would be over with. So my lawyer said, no, I turned that down. We're going to beat this on a legal search and seizure. What they did to you was illegal. How they searched you, pulled you over. We're going to win this case on legal search and seizure. Come back to court 2 months later, moving forward. Come back to court 2 months later, and the officer don't show up. The 2 officers don't show up to court. So they postpone it. Come back again a month later, the court again. The officers are not there again, the second time. Now when the officers are not there 2 times in a row, your case could be dismissed. You could just get all your charges dropped and everything. My lawyer was so good. He was a former Oakland Superior Court judge that retired and was doing criminal. It was a criminal defense attorney, but he was a former Oakland Superior Court judge, black guy, real sharp. He said, no, we're not going to get your case finished. We're going to beat this case on a legal search and seizure. And I said, I'm thinking to myself, wow, I could get my case dropped. But the thing is, if you get your case dropped, they have 3 years to recharge it. They can just come pull you out your house anytime in the next 3 years and recharge you with all the charges again. Well, you pay bail again and you fight the charge. That's the way the criminal justice system works. Long story short, come back to court the third time of real court, not the offer they gave. Come to court. It's been a year now. It's been a year. I've been going to school, taking midterm still, taking my finals, going to school with all the stress on my head, all this stuff pending on me. Get to court, coming from Stockton, University of Mississippi to Oakland Superior Court, go up the stairs, my lawyer coming out the courtroom. He said, it's over with. I said, it's over with. He said, yeah, it's over with. He said, the officers got fired. I said, the officers got fired. He said, yeah. What happened was when I did that internal affair thing that I didn't know about 10 months ago, they started watching the officers, and those officers were dirty. And what internal affairs did was have somebody with some stolen merchandise on these officers' beat, and they stole the merchandise. The officers took the merchandise. They were working for internal affairs. So all of their cases that they had, mine being one, all the charges were dropped. No record, no anything. And so that's how my life was saved. And I was still going to school, taking my finals, and went on and got my degree 2 years later and worked for the Department of Defense for 33 years. But that's playing a long game and just doing your part and trying to know and understanding how to play the game. Then understanding how to play the game and playing the long game, not the short term, and just playing the game.
Okay. Well, and time is moving really fast. I know, Dr. Ashley, you had another appointment. So do you have time to hear Larry, or can you wrap it up now? Because I'm gonna tell you something, fellas. Listening to you, it is the consistency here is we're 4 black men dealing with savory law enforcement characters. Absolutely. So, Dr. Ashley, do you have, and Larry, if you can just make it as short as possible, but this is humongous. I didn't know that happened to you. And we went to school together, Everett. Larry, I didn't know that happened to you. And Ben, I don't know you, but if you'd have told me, I would. So Larry, can you wrap it up as short as possible, but giving Dr. Ashley some teeth that she can extract from each one of us and give our audience tools that they can give their kids so that they don't change your brain. Thank you.
Absolutely. You guys have said pretty much all I need to say. This is about survival. All right. I like you have to be smart. All right. When you're out there. All right. I like there's the movie Menace to Society when Rock tells the young man, he says, look, he says, the hunt is on and you're the prey. They need to understand that our young men need to understand that this is a reality. This ain't no joke. You know what I mean? They have to learn how to make good choices. And I mean, that's something that is taught. And often they don't know to listen. Don't talk. That's not a time to talk. That's a time to listen. The officer's really not asking you for your opinion. And that's the thing. I mean, we need to understand that that's not what he's asking you for. You don't need to give him your opinion. He's communicating with you. And you have to understand the way he's communicating with you, you have a role in that in that communicate too. More or less, answer his questions. Don't go far to the left, don't go far to the right. Don't start telling them all your business or what your problem is. It's straight up. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. All right. When they talk to you, if you're not in the car, just interact with him in a way that if he cross and then listen and record in your heart and your mind what's going on. All right, because I guarantee you, if anything comes up, you're going to need to come back and you're going to need to know that you're going to need to use that again. But you guys have already said most of what's really that I wanted to say. I was fortunate to I went to private school. All right. I went to private school for 9 years. I went to St. Pascal's up on Oakland Hills, and then I went to Bishop O'Dowd. All right, for a year. So I learned in the late 60s, early 70s, how to communicate with white folks. All right, what they think, the way they act, and the way they talk, all of that. You would have called me an Oreo had I not gone to the hood and learned the game. Because after being there for that time, and they gave me a scholarship. So all white people ain't bad to me. They gave me a scholarship that created a foundation for me that lasted when when my family dissolved and my mother got sick and had to be taken away. At the age of 12, I was running the house. At the age of 14, I lost my mother. I never saw my mother again after age 14. And and 6 months later, um, my father kicked me out of his house, and I became a foster kid, basically. And so I've been growing up on my own. But that foundation, that Catholic foundation, even though I'm not a Catholic, I'm a Christian. All right. I never had a relationship with Christ as a Catholic until I got saved in Desert Storm. Did I become a Christian? All right. But the idea is you learn how to code switch. You learn how to interact with everybody. And that's something that needs to be taught, because I see a lot of our young boys, and believe me, I spend a lot of time with our young men mentoring and coaching. I coached for 7 8 years at the high school. I've been coaching for the last 25 years actually, but I interact with kids, and so I get to see that. So I'm gonna stop here because I know I don't want to get off track, but I wanted to give you a little bit more information about who I am.
Larry,
Okay.
Ben, I'm sure you'll be back, Ben. I think we must have lost Ben for a minute. Everett and Doug, you four men up in a environment that was not conducive for the growth of a successful child to a productive adult. So, Dr. Ashley, I know we've gone way over our time, but as you can see, these are some powerful stories that can you tell our audience who are going to be dealing with, have dealt with, and going to continue to deal with racism in law enforcement and Black princes and prince, and how they can grow up to become kings and queens? Thank you.
Well, again, just thank you for elaborating, brothers, and sharing your stories. And there have been some comments about my facial expressions, because it's not easy to hear traumatic narratives. And yet, in that same space, I hold gratitude for the fact that you all survived these encounters and are still here. Again, what I've consistently heard is being able to survive the moment by being mindful of the words that are spoken or unspoken, having these conversations with your children. And then the after part is the debriefing, the part where when we encounter traumatic experiences, to know that this isn't your fault. And if there have been some unwise choices, loving correction for the next experience, but really affirming your child. This wasn't your fault. This is scary. This is what's happened to me. This is what I've learned from this situation. This is what you can do going forward. And sometimes that also involves role plays. Again, just needing to affirm the child. But this is trauma. This is trauma. And we have to really, as much as we can talk about what to do, um, children don't deserve trauma. No one does. And the trauma is not our fault, but the healing is our responsibility. So have those conversations. And if you are an ally, be willing to participate in those conversations for the teachers and other first responders who encounter children of color.
Yeah.
Dr. Ashley, once again, we are at the Waterfront Hotel streaming live in Oakland, California. Sister, I'm glad you my sister, and I love you, and I'm sure I'm speaking for every man on this panel here today. We have gone through some traumatic things, and still we're like phoenixes in the ashes, and still we rise. Keep rising, brother. Dr. Ashley, we love you. Thank you for staying longer than you should, that you expected to. But I don't know about the other three brothers, but I feel like a phoenix ready to bring my wings up. Fly, baby, fly.
Thank you as always for having me. Love you, brothers, too. Keep sharing your stories, because often as African Americans, sometimes we keep our narratives within ourselves. So we break the trauma by breaking the shame, by speaking that, and the healing begins. So thank you. Keep the conversation going.
Thank you. Thank you, as always.
Once again, and thank you, Dr. Ashley. Once again, I wanted to say other. Okay, the other day, I was going through some traumatic mind things, and after getting off the phone with you, I didn't need a double shot of Hennessy. You gave me that quadruple shot of Hennessy. Thank you, and I want you to look in my eyes. Thank you. You know what I'm talking about. God bless you.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Okay. Take care, family.
All right, let's start out live from Oakland, California, the Black Business Roundtable. And I am your host, Doug Blackshear, broadcasting live from the City of Diversity at the Waterfront Hotel in Jack London Square. Want to give special thanks out to blackusa.news, bemore.news, and our magnificent, awesome, entertaining, intelligent brother who have fought for 2 decades to keep this original Black Wall Street alive, Donnie Glover. And Donnie Glover, I am apologetically black. Don't let me say assalamu alaikum now. All right. Also, we want to thank our sponsors, Magnolia Engineering and Construction, for your continued support. And we want to applaud Tammy Willis on her new website, magnoliaengineeringandconstruction.com. Reason why we're down at the Waterfront Hotel, she is doing she's doing a photo shoot for her business today. So on that note, today's show, we have highlighted one of the most important things that any adult can highlight: how to save our children from people who, and not all law enforcement are bad, but the ones that are, you got people who are looking out and looking at you and making sure that you don't chain the minds of our children. We will not let you chain the brain of our children. And you look in my eye, you will not win. You will not win. Thank you. All right. Today, we've had Dr. Ashley with her awesome weekly Dr. Field therapy, but we're going to start saying Dr. Ashley therapy, Dr. Ashley Coleman therapy, because Doctor, you have no idea how much therapy you've given in just a few minutes to last me until the next time we see you, which is next Thursday at 4 p.m. We have an exciting lineup today, which would include Larry Lewis, retired military veteran of 20 years and a heart transplant recipient. Right on, right? I remember when I used to wrestle you, you had a big heart then, and you still got a big heart now, brother. Even if it's someone else's heart, I'm glad to see you alive and you look like you thriving. So stay strong, brother. We're going to listen to you shortly. The next one is we had Ken Houston, Executive Director of Beautification Council of Oakland, California. He couldn't be here, or he hasn't figured out how to chime on. So our outstanding master of ceremonies and who puts everything together, Kim. She's trying to work him in right now. Last but not least, our guest speaker, Benjamin Bigg, president and CEO. And I told you guys I wasn't going to do a president and CEO, but the brother's the president and CEO of Ben Bug Associates in Vallejo, California, the capital of where they beat a brother down. All right. My wingman, my ride or die, my gladiator for life, my brother, Everett, my co-host. Everett, I'm going to chime in and let you take over a lot more than me because you have more of a relationship with Ben and Larry. Now, don't get me wrong, brother. I got a relationship, and this is just the start because this is a networking. Every person that gets on this show, you are in our network. Is that correct, Everett?
Absolutely.
All right. All right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to bring
a
a couple things to light. There's a political race that's going to affect little technical difficulty. Political races that we all need to keep our eye on, and that is Nina Turner in Ohio running for Congress. I've met the sister. I've met her husband. Outstanding. One of my friends have gone, Cullen is up there working with her campaign right now. Make sure you pass the word in Ohio that Nina will make a turning for Ohio. A Nina Turner for Congress in Ohio, United States. Second, Val Demings. Sister, she's in Congress. And let me tell you something. I saw how you whooped on them. This is a live show, and I don't hold my tongue. I saw you how you whooped on them redneck congressmen when they were talking crazy. Thank you, sister. We need strong sister. And she's a sister with a badge. See, that's where I go back to all police aren't bad, but you law enforcement who are bad, we're going to, as Everett and I said in our first show, we're going to start plucking you out of there, taking you out of the law enforcement that is ruining the reputation for those good law enforcement officers. So when I talk about law enforcement, it is not all law enforcement, but you know who you are, and we coming for you with your gun or not with your gun. And take that badge away so you can learn how to treat people, all people. Val Demings, we got your back, sister. Marco, pack your bags. You got to go, brother. Pack your bags. You got to go. The sister's coming in, and she's going to take your job, and we're going to flip the Senate. God bless. Speaking of God bless, Lord, thank you for bringing us here today, and thank you for having all of us here to inform, enlighten, and train our people how to deal with these turbulent times for people of color. Okay. Let's turn it over to, have we heard from Ken Houston? Have we heard from Ken Houston? Okay. Let's turn it over to my man who fought the government 6 times and won, Larry. Just joking, Everett.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Doug. I appreciate it, boy. We got my homies on the set today, and I love it. I've been knowing these dudes for 40-some years, knowing them that long, and they've been my friends, and they true gladiators. And they got powerful stories. Their plight, things they went through, the development of youth, both Ben and Larry, the things they've done so powerful. Starting with Ben, he's the leader of Faith Food Networks, and they do, when I say they give everything for our community and do so much, from giving out free shoes to COVID-19 shots to turkeys, to blankets on people, to just on and on and on. He's been on all kind of national podcasts, Good Morning America. He's been on everything, all of the local stuff. And all he does is just give from his heart and serve the community, just out of love. You know, the bro is just one of the most intelligent dudes I know, valedictorian out of his high school, basketball star, tennis star, academic scholarship, athletic scholarship, just done it all of the above, you know, and he got so much knowledge. So I wanted to bring him on here to share his wealth of knowledge and what he might want to give the audience. And so we'll start with Ben, and then we'll follow up with my boy Larry. And Ben, you just can share whatever you want to share. Just give us some of that knowledge, some of that wealth.
First of all, I want to thank you, Everett and Doug and Donnie and Larry and the Doc for all being here today with us. It's unique and rare that you can get people together of like minds in a situation like this. Personally, I don't think I've ever been on a podcast before. I've done Zoom with my grandkids, you know what I mean? But the wife does podcasts all the time. She set all this up in the office here. She's like, I set you all up. And she even did the background, the tiger in the background on the photo, me and Ev with UOP, University of Pacific Tigers, and our daughter. I commissioned her to draw a couple of those tigers. And one of them we actually donated to a fundraiser at University of Pacific called the Black and Orange Charity Ball. And I think they got $2,500 for the other one for charity at the ball. And the hummingbird in the background there, my wife's uncle, Harvey, who has 200 acres in Oklahoma, he has a exhibit in the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. And that's one of his originals right there, the hummingbird. And he does Native American Indian art, and he's prominent in that area. And he's kind enough to send a family member one of those originals there, the hummingbird. With that being said, Ev, I told you, I don't know what to do with the background set, but my wife did that. So I had to plug her for
Brother,
that.
you're doing great.
It looks real good.
God's been good. You know, I can't give him enough credit for what he's done in my life. I've been up, I've been down, but I'm still around. You know, we've had a journey, say the least. Ev knew me back when I was in college at University of Pacific and playing basketball and then trying to make professional basketball, and played for years with Everett on a team called Supreme Court. And we were winners, and that's as well good as it gets in life. You know, you want to win. And we've played so many years together in basketball, and Ev's always been a sharp guy, sharp. You know, I'll be in the league in San Francisco, and I say, "Yeah, we need you over here, man." He'd be in the league in Orinda. He said, "Hey, Ben, we need you over here, man." You know, so we played ball around the Bay Area for, you know, years and years and years, going back to the 80s, you know, back in Sacramento and stuff. My life started out in Muncie, Indiana, which is probably the basketball mecca of the world. You come from Indiana, if you don't know how to play basketball, you're pretty much shunned socially back there growing up. So your social status is based on how well you can play basketball. You know, we invented the triple double. His name was Oscar Robinson.
Absolutely.
Those are basketball historians. He invented that triple double stat. And then when you have Larry Bird, a great white player that people identify with, you know, from Indiana, it's great for basketball, but in other terms, it was the national headquarters of the KKK after the Civil War. So don't get it twisted. If you're black and you can play basketball, you might get a better break than a black who can't play basketball. You know, it's just how it is. My mom told me to get an education because that's probably the most important muscle in your body, is the gray one between your ears. So her and my pastor drilled that in to get that education, got recruited by a lot of schools. Probably had 400 basketball scholarship offers, 400 academic scholarship offers. Went on 9 recruiting trips. Considered a few places seriously, and wound up at University of Pacific in California. You know, I had a choice between a lot of schools. That one, God was in control. When I look back on it, that was his plan, not mine. Out here in California, after college, I did a lot of things. Lawyer.
May I ask you one question?
Yeah.
What made you want to leave that beautiful free state of Indiana and come to California where the slaves are?
Yeah. You know, actually, my mother had a sister, my Aunt Vanny, who lived in San Francisco. So we had been out here on family vacations. I came out here in 1967, 1972, 77, and then I moved out here in 78. So I initially came out here in, 1964, and then 67, 72 with my family on vacation. We come out here to San Francisco from Indiana, you know, ride the train out, Greyhound out a couple times, even drove out once, you know. And so I'd been to California about 4 times before I started getting recruited by a college out here. University of Pacific, I was in the basketball coach office one day, and he was shoe boxes full of letters from colleges, and he gave me a couple of shoe boxes of letters from schools that were contacting me, and opened up the shoe box. I look in the box, and there's a bright orange envelope in there. I pulled the bright orange envelope out. University of Pacific, Stockton, California. I go, oh, they were just here in my hometown, Muncie, Indiana, last year, playing against Ball State University in my hometown. And the coach, Morrison, was Cal Berkeley. They'd won a national championship at Cal Berkeley, their only one in school history. And he was the primary factor in recruiting me to come to Pacific. So I came out here on a recruiting trip. They rolled the red carpet out, and the rest is history. You know, I think they offered me $400,000 for 3 years at the time on the dotted line that I signed for. And, you know, the main thing is to get your education, though. I would tell that to anybody and everybody listening. You know, you get that education, and they can't take that from you. They could probably take everything else from you.
Yes, sir.
And that's what we've been talking about today. They can take it all from you, but they can't take that education from you.
They can't take it from you. You're right.
You know, and it's going to come into play sooner or later. You know, we talk about things a lot, and my main point is right now in life, besides telling people about Jesus Christ, since I am a licensed minister and that's my job, I tell people about getting an education, you know, especially if you're Black. Good Lord. If you don't have the knowledge, you could be in a world of hurt right now, especially in this nation, America. You know, it's violent. This nation is the most violent nation on earth. And if you're Black, you're on the endangered species list. You know, you have a bullseye on your back.
Preach, man. Preach, man.
Man,
Preach,
and
man.
they don't realize that by now.
Yeah, real talk, man. Preach.
You know what I'm saying? They're trying to get you.
They trying to get you.
You know, they talk about conspiracy theories. Look at history. Shit, it ain't no bigger conspiracy than kill the Black man.
No, Ben,
That's
they
what
don't.
they do. That's what it's designed to do.
Ben, they don't want you to look at history.
It's not kill the Asian. It's kill the Black man. Because the Black man is more of a threat.
Ben, let me just say this. I gotta interject this because I got fresh stuff on my mind. I gotta let you say. They also want us to kill each other.
Oh, man.
And they perpetuate it. And I know from recent experience, law enforcement in the United States, they perpetuate violence against Black on Black. And I'm gonna calm down because anyway. Thank you for saying.
Oh, you're right.
dropping bombs on you. Dropping bombs on you. Hey, they dropped a lot of bombs on us. The fact that there's 3 times as many black men in prison that there are in college, that statistic alone should give somebody a clue what they're trying to do. And, we had issues here in California. I moved out here. I couldn't quite understand the blood Crip feud. I couldn't understand that. I'm from the Midwest. It was black against white. You know what I mean? And, you come out here and you see them blacks killing each other or what color they were wearing. It was kind of amazing and culture shock for me to see that coming to California. That blacks are killing each other based on their colors of clothes.
In Oakland, California.
Oakland, I have family there. My relatives there still. I lived in Berkeley, right there on Shattuck and Woolsey. And, my sister lived on Alcatraz Avenue. And, I frequented Oakland all the time. I had a lot of relatives in East Oakland and stuff. And, I'd hang out in Oakland, but I didn't see the colors flying, but they had the neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Where are you from? What area are you from?
Absolutely. It's not a Crip blood thing.
Brothers want to feud over what area they from.
That's right. I mean? It's about your neighborhood.
Oh yeah. No.
Yeah.
I've seen them all around, and I've seen brothers go, I'm from South Central, and puff their chest up. What, from South Central? I'm from Muncie, Indiana, fool. I'm a Muncie monster. What's happening? You get all that, man. These brothers, they do that. And even in Vallejo today, I'll hear guys, blacks going, I'm from the Crest. What the hell's a crest? That a piece of bread? So, I'm from the Crest. I'm from South Vallejo. Really? It doesn't matter where you're from. You know what I mean? What's your character like? You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Absolutely. What's your character like?
They get to that point where, black, like reference to what Doug was saying. Yeah, they'll hurt each other, man. They really do. My mom taught me a principle called the crawdad principle when I was young. You throw a bunch of crawdads in a bucket. As soon as one tries to climb up out of that bucket, the others will pull it back down by its tail. Now, that's how your own kind will do you. I learned that, I think, by age 9, that, the blacks calling me an Oreo, or Uncle Tom because I'm getting an education. And of course, the whites calling you the N-word at the same time, so you're stuck in the middle of a certain amount of time. And Eb knows that going to University of Pacific, you know what I mean? It's a private school, and, the education and the value for what you get there is second to none in the world. And they have a triangle campus, the main campus in Stockton. And then they had a school of pharmacy there in Stockton with the main campus. They have the dental school in San Francisco, which is the most expensive college in the United States, probably the world. And then they have the law school in Sacramento, where I went to after I went to Pacific and Sac State for my master's degree in business administration with a concentration in finance. Now, Doug, earlier, he called me Biggs instead of Bugs.
Instead of Bugs,
okay. Yeah, that's okay. I'm here to tell you.
That's right. That's right. Let him know, Ben. Let him know, Ben.
Yeah. I've gotten that, but I've been called a lot worse. Hey, I've been booed, man, by 10,000 people at once. They done threw popcorn and soda on me so many times, and now they act like that's something new in the NBA. You know what I'm saying? Man, they pelted me with everything. You know what I mean? Unbelievable. When I was at Pacific, we were conference champs. We played in March Madness, and I was the only black on the team half the year. You know what I mean? That's how we rolled. We was the best white team in America, as they would say. And I hated when they said that because I was black. You know what I mean? What do you mean we're the best white team in America?
Exactly. Exactly, man.
What about me? You know what I mean? You're selling tickets with my picture up on the billboard, Duncan. You know what I'm saying? You got me on all the commercials slam dunking, you know, that make people think they're gonna see a bunch of brothers when they get there. One.
Oh.
One brother. You know what I mean? And we was rolling, you know what I mean? Conference champs, tournament champs, March Madness. You know, it was a good experience playing in that, you know, and being champions. I'm in the Hall of Fame there at the college, you know. And that all was a laying a foundation. Laying a foundation. Yeah, Ev is real competitive, you know, and I admire that in him. No matter what it is, Ev wants to compete. And, you know, hell, I'm the same way. You know what I mean? And that's why he's been my partner for so many years, you know, my buddy, you know what I mean? Because I know when we get out there on the court, he's trying to win and I'm trying to win. You know, I ain't just happy to be there. You know what I mean? I'm just like in life, I'm not just happy to be here. I'm trying to live, not just be alive.
Real talk.
And live with abundance. You know, that's what the man said. He came for abundance. I ain't trying to survive. I'm trying to progress.
Yes, sir.
You know, we passed all that survival stuff. You know,
yes, sir.
We trying to get somewhere.
Yes,
and
sir.
as it is right now, I've been blessed this past week by a award. You get different awards. You know, I have my own website that explains. I'm edit that stuff one of these days. But last week they gave me the presidential point of lights, or see, I can't even tell you what it is. It came from the president.
Oh shit.
So point of lights or something, you know, lighter points, whatever. Point of light.
We're working with.
Yeah, so I guess President Bush started that program, and so I was selected this past year. Somebody nominated me, and I was selected as a point of light in the United States of America. And it's just like when we were on Good Morning America, the television show, and you know, when they had about 13 to 20 million viewers for that episode, and people contact you, they come out and put the makeup on, you're in the cameras and all that, and they're filming this stuff, and you know, and everybody in the newspaper on the front page all the time. But, you know, like yesterday, a newspaper reporter was there for over an hour, you know, interviewing me. And I started opening up like I'm opening up now. And he's Jewish, white guy, Jewish. And he's a good guy. Known him for years. He's the editor of the paper here in town in Vallejo. But I'm telling him stuff he never heard before. You know what I mean? And I would have to preface it and say, hey, that's off the record, man. You know, that's off the record. You better not print that. You know what I mean? Because you start talking real with people and they ain't ready for all that.
Not ready.
They ain't ready for the truth.
Well, Mr. Bug, it sounds like you have overcome from going. I mean, I can't even begin. I was in Arkansas for a short period of time, but we're working with about 18 minutes left when we want to get Larry in. But I would love for you to come back because we're working with 2 hours each episode every Thursday from 4 to 6. And it sounds like, and I've read a lot about you, it sounds like you have definitely found your niche in the community, in your neighborhood, in your city. We want you to come back and continue dialogue with us, telling our people how to get that man's knee off the back of your neck. And I'm sure in Indiana, there was a lot of knees on your back, considering that was the heart and soul of the Ku Klux Klan land. So we're gonna let Larry Lewis get about a 10 to 15 minute segment in here, and then we're gonna do a group conversation. I told Donnie that the stories that our people have are so tremendous and impactful and enlightening that we need to continue this dialogue. Larry Lewis, light it up, brother. Light it up.
Mute. Larry, you on mute. You mute.
Yeah, I got you. Hallelujah. Thank you, brothers. I appreciate you. Hey, Ben, a lot of things you said. We have very common mindset, very common similar interests and the things that we do. From the time you start talking about God, I also am a God-fearing man. Was baptized in the Persian Gulf in 1991. That's when I began to walk with Christ and been walking with him ever since. to your winning ways and the desire that you have to win at all costs. That's something me and Everett share from before you met him. I mean, and it was kind of, we gravitated to that
Absolutely.
about each other. You know, I mean,
Absolutely.
at 15, 16 years old, it was about that. When I saw it in Doug, when I got to the wrestling mat and Doug was there whooping behind and not even taking names. All right. Education. You talked about education being the key. That is what I believe as well. As a matter of fact, that is the one thing that I choose to work on, to talk about, is solving the problem that we have as young people, because I work with young people and have worked with them since I started, probably even before I went into teaching. Um, my 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 degree is in um, psychology, a bachelor's in psychology. I have a master's in curriculum and instruction, and I've completed a master's in educational leadership. Okay, and so the idea for me is, how are we going to change the game? Even playing ball. I play ball too, all right? And I miss it because I can't play it like I used to. But back in the day, yeah, all the way up until I started getting injured, left knee, right knee, now I got a new hip. So I'm off the course these days, but all of those things are, and I wanted to also correct Doug, like you did, all right? There's a big difference between somebody in the military and somebody in the United States Marine Corps. There's nothing like the Marine Corps. All right? There's nothing like the Marine Corps. And if you ever learn about the Marine Corps, all right, our
4 years of
responsibility.
Marine Corps ROTC.
You got it. You got it. Improvise, adapt, and overcome all situations. All right. There's no such thing as an excuse. Something I learned in the military that I wish young people would learn that as well. You can't give an excuse to your superior at all. He don't want to hear it. He want to hear sir, yes, and sir, and that's it. He ain't trying to hear your excuses. So that was something that I learned, and I see just so many people, young men, doing it a lot these days. I also wanted to say this: we are all roughly around the same age. Amen. Born in 61, 62. Ben, you probably a little bit older, maybe a year or two older than us. Yeah. What was happening in the Bay in the 60s, in the 70s? Because we are a product of it right now. The Black Panther movement, all right, the Black Power movement, that is what we are. This is what we're communicating right now. We grew up in this, all right, and we don't know, if we, unless we reflect and realize that this has become, this is something that has come upon us because of our experiences from the very beginning. But I want to talk about solving the problem, because I spend a lot of time, or have spent a lot of time in the classroom. I've had an opportunity to observe young people. All right,
Hey,
for
Larry,
five. Yes, sir.
Larry, I have got to say this.
Mhm.
My brother, I love you that you went
Thank you.
back to teach our young kids. It's,
Yeah,
I want
thank
to
you,
put
brother.
this out in 30 seconds. It's so important that we get Black teachers in those classrooms that will help build the minds of our people. Because
Yeah.
I'm not saying all white teachers are bad, but they will
Oh,
not get what you will
that's
teach
right.
them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying all, no, let's just, I'm not saying black or white, but you, Larry, you touch a Black boy and a Black girl like no white person can. Thank you, sir. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah. You're absolutely right, Doug. And you don't be apologetic about it either, because it's real. All right. What we know, what we bring to the table is exactly what they need. And you're teaching so much more than curriculum. All right. I had been around the world 5, 6, 7 times by the time I went in to teach the kids. All right. And you see how you're able to engage them. You see the first thing, they see you and they don't expect to see you. There are no Black men out there in the profession of an administrator. There are some, but it's not very many. Trust me. All right. So just going in to that profession, and I went into the profession because I had been abroad so often. I had been overseas with the military so often, with the Marine Corps so often, that I was tired of leaving my children. All right. And I remember putting together a plan. all right, which is something I believe that is one of the first elemental stages in becoming successful. You got to have a plan. It's nice to have some leadership. You know, my parents had leadership. They had expectation. I know your parents ever had leadership too. And I see that what happened because of it. And I know you guys, I've listened to your story too, Ben, and I know what you got. I know, Doug, when you talk about your father, I get it. Because that leadership is what's necessary for us to be able to develop a plan, to be able to walk in that plan, all right, to be persistent with that plan. That was the foundation that was given to us as young people. When we first, and even though my family dissolved by the time I was 10, all right, and I basically was living on my own for a period of time, doing what you want. You know, Margaret and Levi, Everett, they didn't care whether or not I went to school. They didn't care whether or not they wanted me to stay alive. They knew I had to make my money any way I could. I love them for that. All right, because it taught me how to be independent, how to grow up, and how to learn without reservation. All right, it was survival. It was live or die. All right, and so that having that plan and having that foundation, I was able to go back to that foundation with my parents that they gave me for the first 10 years. When they put me in private school, we didn't have that kind of money. Why am I in private school? And my father is a retired Navy, you know, and working at the shipyard. We didn't have that kind of money, but my parents prioritized it. They put it first. And so I started to learn how to make good choices. And good choices are something I believe the young people are struggling with. They don't have the leadership, so they don't have a plan, they don't build a foundation, all right? And as a result, they make poor choices, all right? They don't establish good habits. Learning how to live by principles like the Word of God has principles in the Bible, learning how to live by the principles, all right, that are in the Word of God and the promises and the precepts. Amen? So, perseverance.
Preach, brother Everett, preach.
It's about perseverance. You know,
Absolutely.
it's about staying strong to the end, fighting the good fight. All right. It's like what Al Davis got with the Raiders, just win, baby. All right, because that is the key for us. Is, you know, you have to be successful. I subscribe to what my parents taught us years ago from the very beginning about, boy, you're gonna have to be twice as good to get half as much. So you better get started on it now. I started kicking behind in the first and second grade, just like I heard about you guys. And I know that this is what we were doing. Our parents all had us in the same school. Ben, all of us was in the same school in kindergarten and first grade. And we didn't know each other. We just found this out last week.
Absolutely.
All right. And so the difference, I mean, the bottom line is, you know, you just have to pursue excellence. I think that's the idea, pursue excellence. When I look at the kids now today, what I see is there is no leadership. You know, I was an assistant principal for several years, and I spent a lot of time with parents, all right, kids who are in trouble, that 10% that nobody knows what to do with, which predominantly are African Americans, as you probably know. All right, so you got 700 students.
I would have never guessed that, Larry.
I know. Huh? You got 70 kids, all right, out of the 700 in your school that are coming to you on the regular. All right, the teachers are pushing them right towards you because they don't know what to deal with them, and they wouldn't know what to do with them if they could deal with them. The kids are fighting back the teachers from the giddy up, from right there in the class. They'll tell you, I don't like you, and my mama don't like you neither. All right, more teachers are walking away in tears because they cannot do anything to assist these kids than you would ever imagine. They're afraid of middle school kids because they're big now, all right, and they got mouths on them and they say what they want to say. So don't nobody want to teach them. When we see our young kids in the school system, what we find out is that they fail from giddy up. From as soon as they come, they're 2 years behind when they come to school. They're already behind in kindergarten. All right. You can tell they don't have the social skills. They're not able to receive the instruction the same way that most of the other kids are able to receive instruction. All right. And they can't sit still. A lot of them may be drug babies. All right. A lot of them are in foster care. A lot of them are in foster care situations. You have to understand that the idea of parent is no longer what we consider parents. It's not a matter of a nuclear family. There's no such thing as a nuclear family in this environment today. All right. And if you are like my family was, you find out I thought all kids were created equal. They are not. They are not. They may have been created equal, all right, but through life, they are dealing with scenarios, situations that are above their head. All right. Now, if the parents can't help them or don't help them, if the teachers don't help them or won't help them, who's going to help them? And that's what's happening to our children. So they're growing up, they're failing by the third grade. You know, we say in the field of education that you learn to read. If you don't learn to read by third grade, by fourth grade you read to learn.
Right.
So you can't learn anything by the fourth grade if you haven't learned how to read by the third grade. We also know that's where we can identify who's going to be going to prison by the third grade and their inability to read.
Wow.
This is all reality, and we see it, and it's in abundance. The school that I took over had we were ranked number 326 of 335 schools in the county.
Right.
There were only 9 schools that were worse than us.
Wow.
And I had a teacher for the children that did not want to address the issues of those kids. They don't want, when you go to this school, and I chose this school, y'all. I had an opportunity. I was a senior person. I had a senior assistant person.
Larry,
I had a chance to go to any school I wanted to.
Larry, we're working with less than 4 minutes. In a nutshell, as an educator, because you will be back, and so will Mr. Bugs, Mr. Benjamin Bugs. Hey, when I see you, I'm gonna have that name tattooed across my forehead, Mr. Bugs. But since we're working with less than 4 minutes, Larry, in a nutshell, as a man in a field that is definitely, there's a shortage of African Americans, specifically men. In a nutshell, tell us how you've impacted and how we as a race of people can move forward. Thank you.
We have to get involved. First of all, you're going to have to get involved, and that's the community that's going to have to get involved. All right. Our kids are not prepared when they get to high school. We have a dropout rate of we have roughly 1,500 at our particular school. The one there, we have 1,500 kids that go to the school, ninth grade. They enroll. All right. There's 500 that graduate every year. So there's 1,000 kids unaccounted for. All right. The problem that we're having is they're not prepared to deal with that, to go to the high school. And the idea is what we have to do is we have to create infrastructures. All right. We have to build infrastructures around them. All right. And it needs to be built like an AVID program that I was talking to Everett and I think Doug about, this AVID program, Advancement via Individual Determination, which allows for a program to come in and be an elective in that school system. Also after school program. But if you have an elective, that means you have 180 hours a year. All right. That you have 4 years, 720 hours that you have an opportunity to educate and prepare kids. All right. Because they're not confident in their linguistic and their logical skills. All right. They know that they're not capable. All right. And so they give up. Essentially, they give up. So they're just drudging and spending the last 4 years of their high school career twiddling their thumbs. All right. They get out and they're unprepared for anything. They can't do anything. I like the old concept going back to the vocation, at least vocation in areas where you can develop. There are all kinds of programs that are available now. The name of them, what do they call them? They're programs there's a certificated programs that you can jump into where you can get gainfully employed coming out of high school. As a matter of fact, you can prepare while you're in there. All right. There are different levels to this problem. So I'm addressing the high school level right now, but there's a middle school element and there's a elementary school element. I was fortunate enough to do elementary for a couple of years so I could see where the problem really begins at. All right. And as well as in the middle school.
Larry, we're working with 1 minute, close to 1 minute. Bro. I want to say Larry Lewis, Benjamin Bugs, Everett Butler, Man, I can see us sitting in somebody's, your house, my house, Mr. Bug's house, Mr. Lewis' house, having a double, and I always say double shot of Hennessy. But this is the type of roundtable of Black men who have overcome challenges. I want to thank you all, Mr. Lewis. Thank you, sir. And I look forward for wrestling you again. Just joking, of course. Mr. Buggs, I look forward to just meeting you. Everett speaks so highly of you. It's amazing. We want to thank our co-host, Everett Butler. My man beat the government 6 times. And most importantly, thank you, Magnolia Engineering and Construction and BlackUSA.News, Danny Glover. All thank you for showing up tonight, and we look forward to seeing you next Thursday at 4 o'clock for an exciting show of Black Business Roundtable podcast discussion. To all, good night. Thank you.
Nice.
Good job. Good job, you guys.
Well done.
Good job. Good job. Good job, you guys. Proud of you. No doubt about it. Wish you had more time. We gotta definitely have you guys back on there so we continue the dialogue.
Yeah. We target different areas that you want to talk about, and
Absolutely, you do, Larry.
we can blow it up, that particular area. Yeah.
Especially when I'm trying to, like you said, get into with the youth. Everything you just got to the end of it, but with everything you were saying, you was hitting on everything that's needed and what the problem is and solutions. And you get a chance to get into that.
I've had a long time and a lot of opportunity to reflect, to just sit here and to think about how to fix this problem. It is the primary issue that I think I'm concerned about, is
You and
dealing
me
with
both.
this issue. Yeah.
You and me both. That's what it's about.
I can't,
it's playing.
honestly, I cannot find something greater than this, because
It's nothing
you're talking
great.
about our future.
It's nothing
Our
greater.
legacy. Yep.
It's nothing greater than planning forward with our youth, pushing them, facilitating them, motivating them, advocating for them, giving them the tools, giving them the resources to be better and to do better. It's nothing more. It's nothing greater. It's
Larry,
nothing
Yes,
Larry,
sir.
let me say this. I haven't seen you in almost 40 years, brother.
I know.
You look like new money. What's happening, man?
I look like I put some years on, huh? I want to see all 40 of them years, huh?
You look good, bro. You look extremely good.
Thank you, brother.
As you always do. As you always do.
Hey, man,
It's
I'm
like that.
happy to be alive,
It's
brother. I
like that.
really am.
Yes. Yes, sir.
I know that every day that I live is a day of grace, and I
No,
look
real
at it
talk,
that
man.
way.
Preach, my friend. Preach, my
When I
friend.
take my shirt off and I look at the scars on my body, I realize that this is grace, man. This is I have been given another chance, and I
Preach,
can't
my
mess it
friend.
up.
When somebody give you when you need a heart, when your heart is that bad, and you get a heart and
Yeah.
it works, that
Yeah.
it's nothing more profound than that. It's nothing that
Yeah.
nobody can say or think. It's nothing.
It really
Nothing.
isn't.
Zero.
And
It's zero. Nothing more profound than that. Nothing.
thank you, brother. And when they start talking to you about you have cancer in your heart, and you're like, what?
Ooh.
What do you mean? And they
Oh.
tell you can't have cancer in your heart, cancer in your stomach. I was a goner, bro. I was done.
Yeah.
The grace of God, I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's
why I know he lives.
Larry, look at you, man. You are in a profession that needs brothers like you.
like you. Yeah.
That's why you were saved. You were saved to come back.
Preach, Doug. Preach,
That's
Doug.
right.
Preach,
So,
Doug.
That's right.
you don't make me start crying. I done already
Preach, Doug.
cried.
Preach. No, you're right. What you hit it. You hit it spot on. What you said about him. God wants
no
him here.
doubt.
God sent to this earth was to
Absolutely.
heal our kids,
Absolutely.
man. God sent you back because we need you, man. Good. Thank you, Jesus, Lord. Thank you.
Let me tell you this too, brother. This right here, you guys have provided an opportunity for me to release it. I've been looking for a way to release it. I have wanted to come home and release it. All right. I have been having a difficult time. I know what God wants me to do. All right. I'm going to have to do it whether I have help or not.
Right.
You guys just provided the help.
This
No,
is the
you
perfect platform for that. Perfect
Do you know-
platform for all of that.
do you know how many brothers were impacted by you saying what you said today? Going back to the school, everybody, I want to teach. That's no money, man. You turned. You know what?
Yeah. Yeah.
When I'm down,
Yeah.
Andre told me where you are, so
Yeah.
I might have to
Okay.
curse you in, brother. I know you're
I'd
gonna.
love to have you guys come out here and check me out.
But
I
it's so
truly would.
important that we get into careers that impact the next generation. And you did
Yeah.
that, man.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be the Superman, the superhero. You are the hero.
Thank you,
Thank you,
brother.
sir.
Appreciate
And I
you.
love
Let me
you.
tell you something too.
Gladiator.
That money thing, that's a myth, brother. That's a myth. And when I say that money thing is a myth, my dollars don't say that this is a problem, getting paid. Put it this way, I'm
Go ahead.
retired, and I'm pulling 6.5 figures. Retired, doing nothing. My wife is also, a retired school principal. I can't hear you.
Congratulations, man. Congratulations.
But I say that not to be braggart. I say that because we've been able to make a very good living off a $250,000.
You hear me?
Retired.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, that's right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Larry's trying to get in. I think.
Me, I'm trying to get Everett. Yeah.
Everett's trying to get in, Larry. So why don't we do this? Because we can
Back on
go
the
to a
phone?
conference call. Because I want to. We talk for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and wrap it up. We're gonna do a conference call in the room where we can just sit back and chop it up.
Okay.
All right, we'll call you right back.
Okay. March Day.